Straight into the military. Tell me I'm... Tomorrow?
The film opens at an Al-Qaeda base in Iraq, where extremists are preparing to execute several hostages. Acting without official orders, Marine John Triton launches a solo assault, sparking a violent firefight. Through intense close-quarters combat, he eliminates the entire terrorist cell and rescues the captives. Despite his heroism, John is honorably discharged from the military. John flies home and is greeted with joy by his wife Kate, who's thrilled to have him back and eager to spend more time together. However, John soon becomes restless with the routine of civilian life and takes a job as a security guard. The following day, a criminal named Rome arrives at a jewelry store. As they entered the store, Rome's gang discreetly spread out, posing as customers. Suddenly, Rome overpowered the security guard, while his accomplice Bennett drew a weapon and forced everyone to the ground. Unable to break through the bulletproof rear glass, Rome took a woman hostage and threatened her life, pressuring the manager to unlock the door.
Phyllis.
Get down!
Thank you. Wrong. You gotta hit me. You gotta look real. For the cops.
Instead of striking the manager, Rome executes him with a single gunshot. As the gang flees, Rome unleashes a hail of machine gun fire at the approaching police, while Morgan destroys a squad car to clear their escape route. After the heist, investigators arrive at the scene and begin to suspect an inside job, possibly involving one of the store's employees. John starts his new job as a security officer at a large corporation, working alongside a colleague named Joe. One day, a wealthy man arrives with 2 bodyguards, signs some documents, and promptly departs. While Joe enjoys the job for its good pay, benefits, and low stress, John finds it tedious and unfulfilling. Joe urges him to appreciate the stability and take it easy. John and Joe respond to a report of a disturbance on the 12th floor, where they find the wealthy man verbally and physically assaulting his ex-girlfriend. He only stops when they intervene. After hurling an insult at Joe, the man is promptly escorted by John to the ground floor and ordered to leave the building. But once his bodyguards arrive, he regains his arrogance and intentionally provokes John, sparking a confrontation. Before hurling the man through a window, John first took down both of his bodyguards. The incident led to John's dismissal and Joe's suspension. Later, the two share a candid conversation, during which Joe encourages John to accept change as a part of life and to embrace the challenges of returning to a normal civilian life. Feeling renewed, John chooses to prioritize his mental recovery and make the most of his time with his wife, Kate. Meanwhile, Rome and Angela return to their hotel room, where Angela remains visibly shaken by the events at the jewelry store. Rome explains that he killed the manager because the man recognized him, but insists that, aside from that, everything unfolded as planned. Meanwhile, Joe drives John home, trying to minimize the incident at the office. But their conversation is interrupted by a news broadcast showing security footage of the altercation, clearly capturing John throwing the man through a window. While John admits he regrets his actions, Kate believes he returned to work too soon, before he was truly ready. Kate suggests they take a long road trip to unwind, and John agrees. The next day, they set off, eager to enjoy the time together, until they realize the car is low on gas. They stop at a gas station, unaware that Rome and his crew are there refueling as well. While John heads inside to grab some snacks, he unknowingly crosses paths with Angela and Bennett. The sudden arrival of a police car at the gas station puts Rome's crew on high alert. As a young officer casually strikes up conversation about Rome's vehicle, Morgan abruptly shoots him in the head. The second officer attempts to escape but is quickly gunned down by Rome. Hearing the gunfire and screams, John races toward Kate, but before he can reach her, Bennett ambushes him and knocks him out. Angela shoots and kills the cashier as the group prepares to flee. They drag Kate from the car, and Rome decides to take her as a hostage. Just as John begins to regain consciousness, the crew speeds off. Before leaving, Morgan opens fire on the gas station, triggering a massive explosion that blasts John backward. By the time John reaches the scene, the gang has already sped away with Kate. He races to the wrecked patrol car, narrowly dodging another explosion and pulling the injured officer to safety just in time. Fueled by urgency, he jumps into his own vehicle and takes off in pursuit. While giving chase, he calls the police to report the wounded officers and Kate's abduction, pushing his car to the limit to stay on the gang's trail. Inside the speeding Jeep, Angela rifles through Kate's belongings and discovers she's married to a Marine. Unfazed, Bennett and Morgan take turns shooting at John's car as he gives chase. Rome attempts to run him off the road, but John remains relentlessly on their tail. John's car is forced off the road, its roof torn apart, yet he refuses to slow down. Under heavy fire from Rome's gang, his vehicle eventually veers off a cliff and crashes below. When the group circles back to inspect the wreckage, Kate screams in anguish. Angela quickly threatens her with a gun, but Rome intervenes, reminding them that Kate is their only leverage for survival. With their vehicle heavily damaged, Viscera scolds Morgan for his reckless gunfire, sparking a heated confrontation. Rome intervenes to defuse the situation, and the gang decides to continue on foot, crossing a swamp to reach a rendezvous point where they plan to trade the diamonds for cash. Meanwhile, Detective Van Buren arrives at the gas station.
Got one deceased officer here, another found seriously wounded there. Choppers and search teams are on the way.
Investigating the scene and tracking the radio signal John had transmitted earlier. Responding to a report of a car crash, Detective Van Buren arrives to find only an abandoned vehicle. Moments later, John emerges from the swamp and tells him that his wife has been kidnapped.
I've seen him kill 3 people. My wife will not be number 4.
Though Van Buren urges him not to pursue the gang alone, John refuses to back down. When warned about how dangerous these criminals are, he acknowledges the risks, but remains unwavering in his determination to save Kate. As the gang treks through the swamp, Kate attempts to resist, but is swiftly overpowered by Bennett. The grueling march through the marshland fuels rising tensions, culminating in a fierce argument between Morgan and Viscera. Without warning or explanation, Rome abruptly shoots Viscera, eliminating him from the group. Meanwhile, law enforcement launches an extensive manhunt, deploying aerial and ground search teams across the wetlands. John stumbles upon the site of Viscera's murder, picks up a discarded knife, and resumes his pursuit. Meanwhile, Rome takes a call from the contact expecting the stolen jewels, but chooses to double-cross his partner, deciding to keep everything for himself, making the crew's efforts futile. At the same time, John relies on his military tracking skills to follow their trail, steadily gaining ground on the gang. As John reaches a clearing in the woods, he instinctively senses danger. Bennett suddenly lunges at him, but John dodges the attack. Moments later, another man appears and aims a gun at him, mistaking him for a cop. While John tries to explain he's just searching for his wife, a third assailant blindsides him, knocking him unconscious. He awakens in a warehouse, tightly bound to a chair, surrounded by 2 large men hastily stashing suspicious items, their faces tense with anxiety. Convinced that law enforcement was closing in, the 2 men began beating John, skeptical of his story. With no other option, John pretended to confess he was a cop being tracked by GPS. The lie sent them into a panic, and in the confusion, he seized the moment to overpower one of them and break free. A fight erupts as the 2 men lunge at John, but amid the chaos, he loses track of Rome's gang and Kate. Undeterred, he resumes the pursuit, following their trail to a riverbank. There, he spots Rome and his crew leading Kate into an abandoned cabin hidden in the swamp, their planned hideout for the night. As the gang steps out to locate the generator, Kate begins working to free herself. Meanwhile, Morgan heads downstairs to get the power running. Suddenly, John strikes, launching a surprise attack. A brutal hand-to-hand fight breaks out, with Morgan attempting to gain the advantage by smashing a bottle over John's head. But John quickly turns the tide, overpowering him and ultimately killing him with a knife. At that moment, Rome steps outside to call an associate, instructing them to have a getaway vehicle ready at the marina. Meanwhile, Bennett leaves the cabin to prepare the boat for their escape. Seizing the opportunity, John ambushes him, and after a brief but intense fight, he kills Bennett. Shortly after, Detective Van Buren arrives, meets with John, and informs him that he intends to take over the pursuit. Detective Van Buren ultimately agrees to step aside, letting John continue the rescue mission. When the cabin's power fails, Kate seizes the chance to escape. Angela chases her down and corners her, leading to a struggle that ends with Angela drawing a gun. At that moment, John bursts into the cabin, only to be met by Rome, who immediately aims a gun at him. Van Buren storms in, aiming his gun at Rome and ordering him to drop his weapon. But in a shocking twist, he turns the gun on John, revealing he's secretly allied with Rome.
You still got something I need. Listen, I don't care what you do to him. I just want my wife.
He's not going to do anything to me. Not until he finds out what happened to those stolen diamonds. That's what he's after. Isn't that right, officer?
Where are they, Rome?
Where's what?
Give me my damn diamond!
Oh, calm down, VB. See, I tried to kill this guy twice today. If you shoot him right now, I'm to split the diamonds with you.
Van Buren demands the stolen gems, prompting Rome to propose a deal he'll split the haul in half, but only if Van Buren kills John. As Van Buren hesitates, John seizes the moment, charging at him and using him as a human shield when Rome opens fire. Amid the chaos, Rome escapes, forcing John to momentarily fall back. With only Angela left to confront him, Rome shoots the gas tanks beneath the cabin, triggering a massive explosion as he drags Kate away. John narrowly escapes, leaping to safety just before the cabin is consumed by flames. Rome locks Kate in the trunk of Van Buren's car and escapes with his remaining crew. Meanwhile, as the Coast Guard attempts to rescue John from the water, he fights back, grabs a rifle, and commandeers a boat. Realizing Van Buren's car is no longer an option, Rome instructs Angela to hijack another vehicle. She flags down a pickup truck using her charm, then coldly kills the driver. Aboard the police boat, John hears a radio report about the murdered truck driver and the location of the stolen vehicle. As night falls, he reaches the marina and overhears Rome and his crew talking, spotting the truck they're using. Realizing John is nearby, Kate intentionally creates a distraction, giving him the chance to slip onto the truck unnoticed. John throws Angela off the speeding truck, and she's fatally hit by an oncoming bus. Rome immediately opens fire, but Kate intervenes just in time, knocking the gun from his hands. Rome then tries to throw John off the truck, plowing through several roadside shacks in the process. John hangs on through the chaos, but is eventually flung off. Moments later, the truck crashes into a building, erupting in a massive explosion. Rome escapes, leaving Kate still chained inside the wreckage. John races toward the crashed truck, now partially submerged in the river, but is suddenly ambushed by Rome, who knocks him to the ground. A brutal fight erupts between them. As John tries to regain the upper hand, debris from the collapsing building crashes down on him, briefly trapping him and shifting the momentum. Seizing the moment, Rome slams a sledgehammer into John's chest with devastating force. John swiftly unlocks the handcuffs and pulls Kate to the surface, desperately working to revive her. Relief washes over him as she begins coughing and regains consciousness in his arms. But their moment is cut short when Rome suddenly reappears and attacks with a chain. John fights back with everything he has, ultimately hurling Rome into the air and snapping his neck, killing him instantly. At last, John and Kate embrace, sharing a heartfelt kiss just as the police arrive on the scene.